Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video we're going to speak about two things. One of them is a major secret deal that Palantir has done that has been under the radar, and why this is good for us as investors and how this is going to affect the stock for us. And the second one is a new report came out by the Institute for Study of War, which basically indicates that this war in Russia and Ukraine is going to lead to a stalemate. And I want to show you their report a little bit and go into details about how this affects Palantir's stock price and the outlook for Palantir. So let's get right into it. But before, you need to make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that already. 347 billion in market cap, and the company is called ExxonMobil. And this has gone very much under the radar, and the only reason why we know about it is because Palantir themselves published a white paper in March. I believe it was on the 8th of March, where you can see that they are showing their clients, and look here, ExxonMobil. So basically, there's no details that I could find about the deal, so this can also be a trial. But what is amazing news with this is that ExxonMobil obviously has a tailwind of a very high oil price, so they're very profitable right now. And Palantir has a track record of having, I think, like 150% net retention on clients, meaning they start in an organization and then they do good, and then this organization keeps using Palantir in more and more units, therefore increasing the income from a customer. And this company is definitely someone that can easily pay for a 10 million a year or even 100 million a year contract with Palantir. So in a next video, I'm going to try to quantify what this deal is, and I'm going to try to fish out more data on this. And the stock market had an amazing reaction to this contract. So I want to show you, it's this day, I believe, when the news came out. And again, it's very hard to find data about this. And I found out in a YouTube video, and the guy in that video claimed that it was this day when it came out. And as you can see, the reaction of the stock market is absolutely nothing. And that's fantastic for us as investors, because if the stock would have gone up 30, 40. I mean, for me, this is the appeal of Palantir. That is a crazy misunderstood stock, right? And when you have these massive good indicators and the stock stays the same, it just lets us, earn money and put more and more into Palantir and increase our position in Palantir. So now the next thing that I want to go over is, so a new report came out by the Institute for the Study of War, and I just want to quickly go through this report with you. So they're basically saying that the Ukrainian forces have defeated the initial Russian campaign of this war. That campaign aimed to conduct an airborne and mechanized platforms operations to seize Kiev, Kharkiv, and Odessa, and other major Ukrainian cities to force a change of government in Ukraine. That campaign has culminated. Russian forces continue to make limited advances in some parts of the theater, but are very unlikely to be able to seize their objectives this way. The ultimate fall of Mariupol is increasingly unlikely to free up enough Russian combat power to challenge the outcome of the initial campaign dramatically. Then Russian forces in the south appear to be focusing on a drive toward Kryvyi. I'm sucking at these names, I'm sorry. Presumably to isolate and then take a city and another city from the west, but are unlikely to secure any of those cities in the coming weeks, if at all. The Russian military continues to commit small groups of reinforcements to localized fighting rather than concentrating them to launch a new large-scale operations. The culmination of the initial Russian campaign is creating conditions of stalemate throughout most of Ukraine. A stalemate will likely be violent and bloody, especially if it protracts. If the war in Ukraine settles into a stalemate condition, Russian forces will continue to bomb and bombard Ukrainian cities, devastating them and killing civilians, even as Ukrainian forces impose losses on Russian attackers and conduct counterattacks of their own. The Russians could hope to break Ukrainians' will to continue fighting under such circumstances by demonstrating Kiev's inability to expel Russian forces, or stop their attacks, even if the Russians are demonstrably unable to take Ukrainian cities. Ukraine's defeat of the initial Russian campaign may therefore set conditions for devastating protraction of the conflict and a dangerous new period testing the resolve of the Ukraine and the West. Continued and expanded Western support to Ukraine will be vital, seeing Ukraine's through that new period. So, key takeaways. We now assess that the initial Russian campaign to seize Ukraine's capital and the major cities and force the regime change has failed. Russian forces continue efforts to restore momentum to this culminated campaign, but those efforts will likely also fail. Russian troops will continue trying to advance to within effective artillery range of the center of Kiev, but prospects for their success are unclear. I will link this article for you and you can read this. What's super sad about this is obviously the Russians, they have an objective that they want to reach, and the Ukrainians have been getting amazing help by the West, but unfortunately this was in the form of Javelin missiles, which are basically smart targeting anti-tank missiles, which make it very hard for the Russians to advance. And unfortunately, I don't even want to say understandably, but if you were a Russian general, the only thing that you can do that saves your soldiers' lives and does anything is that you just bomb the hell out of cities, and this is pretty much what they're doing. So this article is saying that this is most likely it's going to be a very prolonged war because the Ukrainians have gotten a lot of weapons from the West. So if the Russians go into, this door-to-door fighting and trying to take over a city building by building, it's going to be very tough for them because the Ukrainians have very good weapons and, they know the territory and, so it's not a pretty scene. So how does this affect our beloved stock, Palantir? So the thing is, Palantir is a stock, also Alex Karp said on the earnings call that it's a stock that thrives in bad times, and unfortunately this is a very bad time. Europe is skyrocketing their defense budgets, and I'm 100% sure that Palantir is going to get a lot of business from this. And as we know, all that is needed for Palantir is to set one foot in the door, and then the product, the foundry basically takes care of itself because they have an insane customer retention. So this is a lot of new business for Palantir. Unfortunately, the two countries that are in fight, they are major, mineral and oil, and Ukraine is, bread and food source of Europe at least. I mean, Russia is oil source for the world. So this is going to likely worsen oil prices and material prices, which is going to obviously affect inflation. And again, as I did an earlier analysis, none of this harms Palantir. Palantir is very well set up to deal with this. And again, I believe that big companies that are the customers of Palantir, which will always be able to pay for this service, when the going gets tough for them and they look for solutions on how to make it easier for them, using their data to their advantage is one of the best ways to do it. And so I believe Palantir is going to get a lot of business out of this. However, the stock price might suffer because so far the stock price has been very much affected by the market. It had nothing to do with Palantir itself. So what we might see is the business fundamentals of Palantir getting even better than they have ever been. What we might see is they might get a lot of new customers from Europe, governments, maybe even companies from Europe. Which means that they start this cycle of, expanding within the company and, expanding the revenue. The inflation will not hurt them. So the fundamentals will look the best ever. However, it might be that the stock price continues to go down. And this is why it's really important that you know this and understand this, and you're ready to, be diamond-handed, and you're ready to cost average down on the stock. And, This is a once in a 10-year, maybe 20, 30-year investment opportunity with Palantir, and it's very important to know what can happen, and this is why I'm telling you this. And of course, this is only my opinion based on the facts that the data that I've shown you here. I might be wrong, this might be inaccurate. But yeah, I thought I'd share this with you, and if you liked it, I hope you hit the subscribe button, and let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.